Okay, everybody, thank you for being here again. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Sean Smith. I'm the foolish founder of this crazy event that we have going on. My heart is just swelled seeing all you lovely people out there. Thanks so much for coming. It's just fantastic. I really, really appreciate it. And the gentleman in the red costume, turn around. Gentleman in the red costume, he's so busy buying stuff. Gentleman in the red, thank you so much, dude. You look amazing, amazing. We'll make sure you get a prize because you look killer. Thank you. So yeah, I'm going to sit and talk to you guys for a little bit about Dungeons & Dragons and my 40-year love affair with this crazy little game that we play. So that's what today's talk is going to be about. So like I said, I started playing this when I was quite young in high school. And in 1978, my parents took me to see Lord of the Rings, Ralph Bashki's animated classic. Why we don't have the third installment yet, I don't know, but that's okay. I won't let it get to me too bad. This was a pivotal part in my life. I was like 12 years old, and this was an amazing movie. Just the animation blew my mind, all the rotoscoping and everything, and it was just so different. It wasn't Disney. And the Nazgul were so spooky in that film. And it marked me. And so from there, it was like, oh, what is this? And I learned about Tolkien. I got to read Tolkien books, and this was all phenomenal stuff. So we go a couple years later, my dad is a massive science fiction buff, big science fiction guy. He sees this thing called Star Frontiers, and I saw somebody around here earlier walking around with, looks like the box set that they probably got from our vendor over there. He brought this home, and we started playing it with family and friends. And this was my introduction to a role-playing game. Star Frontiers has the jankiest system of play. It is horrible. Initiative is ridiculous. It's the worst. Over COVID, I did a one-shot with friends by traditional rules, and it was horribly great. Loved it. But this was huge because it introduced me to this idea of imbibing a character, literally becoming someone else. That was really cool. And so a year later, in 1981, Dad, on holiday, bought me the famous red box set that a lot of us started with. And this was the love affair of D&D started then. So me and my buddy, we rolled up characters, we're all excited, and we didn't know what the hell to do. Because you got characters, and you need a DM, and it was just great. After that summer in high school, I met up with some other friends, some that'll be here today, and we played D&D in the D&D club. I went to a Catholic school here in Calgary, and the TA for the D&D club was the nun, which to this day I think is the coolest thing in the world, that the nun saw the benefits of Dungeons & Dragons. Maths, problem solving, sharing, cooperation. She saw that. That's huge. Especially in 1981. Amazing. So yeah, we played, and you created all these amazing characters that, all of us could tell stories forever about our characters that we played. And all the great books you collected and all that kind of stuff. We went into the Temple of Elemental Evil. If anybody has played, I see people nodding, you'll know that there's 35 different levels to this crazy thing. Not really, but it feels that way. We literally rented a manor next to the place, and you play, I think if I remember correctly, it's level 1 to 7, I think you go up to. It felt like work. Like we'd come and play D&D, you'd walk from your manor to the temple. It felt like you'd punch in your time card, go down, kill a few things, come out, punch out, go home, and it just went on forever. I absolutely loved it, but it was a very interesting module where it just goes and goes and goes. I should stop for a second, though, because I'm talking about a lot of old stuff that was really fun. In 2011, a major thing in my feeling happened. Community does the D&D episode, which is, obviously not even available in some places because of silly, strange issues. And then just after that, you start having it seen on The Big Bang Theory, talking about it, D&D. All of a sudden in 2011, it's starting to come to, a thing. People are hearing about it, talking about it. Stranger Things comes out and does kind of that E.T. beginning feeling from the film when the kids are playing Dungeons & Dragons, and now all of a sudden we've got it on Stranger Things. Of course, Critical Role comes along not long after, and it explodes. Dimension 20. Then, of course, looping back to Stranger Things, and it's massive. D&D is bigger now. Role-playing games are bigger now than they've ever been. But some of you out there I know are nodding with me also remember these days when it was, just harmless fun or sorcery, bad, Groups say fantasy game responsible for teen suicide. And it was probably heavy metal music, actually. It wasn't D&D, but, I love this. The Lich with the helpline is open. Do you talk to the Lich? What is that even? I don't even know what that means. And then the famous Mazes and Monsters, which I absolutely love, hate that film with Tom Hanks in the early days. One of his first movies about D&D and someone getting lost and all that kind of stuff. In the 80s, we lived in the shadows. It was like Fight Club. The first rule of D&D is you don't talk about D&D. You don't tell anyone back then you played the game because they were like, oh, dude, so you're like a member of the satanic cult? And your answer was yes. Or, people said, what is it? Is it like Monopoly? And you kind of nicely try and explain the vast difference between them, which is understandable because they don't know, right? But back then you didn't talk about it because people didn't talk about it. It wasn't cool to talk about it. A little different now. The world has changed. I mean, look at this, right? My 1980 body couldn't imagine this kind of thing happening, and the world has changed, and it's amazing. In the 1990s, we jumped out of D&D, and we started playing MERP, Middle-earth role-playing. So you're playing in the land of Tolkien. If any of you have played this amazing game, you'll know that your character sheet is about 8 pages long. It's on a D100 system. If your DM or Game Master said, are you wearing greaves? Your immediate answer was yes. Or are you wearing a helm? Of course I am, because if not, you knew your head was coming off. It was an amazing game. We played it for a long time. You're in and around Tolkien's world. You're not allowed to mess things up. It's kind of fun. And we played that probably for 15 years. I think we played in the land of Middle-earth. My most famous character was Mornane, Morn being black, and Nea is tears, so he was black tears. He had them on his face. He had to leave the love of his life to go and try and defend the world, and so he tattooed his face. It went up to a 21st level rogue, and sadly he had a family history. He belonged to Fëanor of the elves, and so he wanted the Silmarils for himself, and he said, I'm the true king of the elves, and the rest of the elves says, no, you're not, and at the end of it, I got my head chopped off, and the party kind of won, but almost all of us died, and ironically, the bard lived to tell the tale. Poor Runin, this was another version that we played. Runin, well, boy, I really got that name right. First 2 or 3 games, found a magic ring on a person that he had killed, being, again, another, it was a scout, it was called. He went and took the ring and didn't tell the party. Put it on later, and it's like, oh, I turn invisible when I wear this ring. It was a lesser ring of power. I just kept wearing it throughout the game, the campaign, over like 7 years. And every time I put it on, a little bit of my soul went away to Mordor. Finally, at the end of the game, our leader is just about to be killed. I put on the ring, I save his life, and my soul essence goes off. I become evil. I am now like a Nazgul. You can see where my characters go. I've grown up a bit. I'm not as dark as I was in the 90s. It was a beautiful game. And the beauty of this game is that I'm talking about people that I, to this day, still play with. 40 years with some of the same people. Now, sadly, some of them are lost to us. They didn't make the resurrection. They're not with us anymore, and that hurts. Some have moved. I have friends in Australia, friends in Ottawa we used to play with. They don't play with us anymore, but I still have a couple of key players, and one's going to be playing in a game. His brother will be here later, and his brother's kid right now, who's all grown up, is playing in a game over there. This game is community. This game brings us all together. It does amazing things. It gives you memories. It gets me to stand here like an idiot telling you about a non-real character that had his head chopped off. Like, it's so silly, but it's so tangential and real, and it means a lot to us. 2016 comes along, and my son Connor, who was here a minute ago, who's amongst us, said, hey man, we're not playing enough. Why don't you start DMing again? I hadn't DM'd in about 10 or 15 years at that point. And I said, okay. So we set things up in the kitchen. We started very, basic and had fun. At this point, we're playing 3-5, which was kind of neat. And D&D is an interesting thing. When you're playing, there's an evolution to it. In the 80s, we literally had a sandbox that I made. So it was a big box full of sand. You drew your map. It was a rage. It was the coolest thing. All the cool kids are doing it. I was the dumb bunny that carted it around in his car and had sand everywhere all the time. Then we went to drawing it on paper, right? Then we went drawing it on our erasable mats. We started using Jenga blocks to create rooms. That was a blast. I cut up Jenga into different sizes. But a funny thing struck me one time. We're at our game. We order pizza because you order pizza at a game. And I'm looking at that little white thing in the center. We're like, that looks like a table. Snip, snip, cut off a couple things, put it on the game table, and my players went crazy. They started jumping on it, throwing it, doing stuff, and I couldn't believe the interaction that gave to players. It gave them things to do. We can play theater of the mind, we do all the time, but if you see something, you'll react with it more than if you're just trying to imagine it. So I'm like, that's interesting. Let's start making a bunch of stuff. Let's make beds, let's make bookcases, let's make tons of things and start introducing them to the game. The game exploded. I saw my players way more creative, way more engaged. So it's like, okay, this is fun. Let's add more things to it. Let's get carried away. Let's have lava pits. That's fun. Jump on, solid rock to jump over the lava. That's cool. Let's experiment with a smoke-making machine that I bought at Long and McQuaid. Okay, dummy doesn't realize it's meant for a stage that would be for a band. We're in a small room. I turn it on. Within seconds, the room is smoke. It was amazing. Again, D&D. It's the silly stories we get to share and tell with people. Let's have caves and caverns to play in. Let's build epic boards that people can engage with. Oh, sure, why not? Let's have pirates and boats. The boats are over in a game right now. They were made probably 5-6 years ago. They're in a game right now over there if you want to look at them. And they were a blast. And I've been an artist my whole life, and as an artist making terrain, you write a fine line between something that looks really cool but something that's really playable. And I tend to lean, if I can, on playable because I want the players to have a good time. So the boats have no cladding, so you can run around all the different levels and go all through it. That's way more important than a good-looking boat. I'm not making a model, right? And then pink foam comes into my life. So this foam board that you buy at Home Depot, and pink is the way to go, not that crap blue stuff from Rona, don't even get me started. $16 for an 8-foot sheet by 2 feet, half an inch thick. I can build you a world with that sheet. It's amazing. It takes texture. It is easy to paint. It's lightweight. I'll be doing a tutorial over at that table. There might even be 1 or 2 seats left open if everyone's interested. Later this afternoon, showing you the basics of working with foam. So I start making worlds. I start making, hills and mountains and caverns and, epic battles. This is one of the end of our campaigns. In this one, I literally had a cargo net above the table, telescoping magnets with dragons on the bottom, so you could fly 3-dimensionally, laterally, vertically. So that battle was going above ground, where on the bottom was the major battle with the boss. It was both these things happening at the same time. This was a blast. Like everything Sean does, I get carried away, hence AärdCON. And we have this crazy huge battle. I've got a spinning portal on an iPhone in the center that a player got dragged into another portal in another dimension. It's all about creativity. It's about using your mind. Next campaign, I start building a town. I want my players to live in a town and kind of dig in and have a whole adventure in a town. So I start building Blackmore as a tribute to Dave Arnson, one of the co-creators of D&D. Amazing battles. The stuff's getting more and more creative. I'm having more and more fun. I'm building more and more things. Jail cells. That's the inside of a cathedral. What I start realizing is you're building what I call a terrain library. And the more that you have, the more you can interpose it and use it. So you're always thinking about where can I reuse this? You don't want a one-shot deal with a piece of terrain. Wizard towers that open up so you can play on the tower. Why would you have it not open? That's crazy. It's got to open. You got to play inside of it. Sewers. We're just at this sewer. Went back to it last game. Like 2 weeks ago, my players were back in a sewer that they had seen like 3 years ago, which was really fun. And they forgot a bunch of stuff about it, which was great. There's that cathedral. And inside of, this was a throw together game. I wasn't prepared. I know they needed to figure something out. I kind of sent them to a warehouse, and I quickly grabbed my terrain library and created the inside of a warehouse. It's not all about battle. I had them one time enter into a competition. So this was like swinging blades. They had to jump over spikes and a whole bunch of rolls. It was a lot of fun. They got to compete. That big hill that was pink is now painted, and they had a whole bunch of time for them to get up this while they're being attacked. Lots of battles, lots of fun. I made a large fantasy kind of fairground for them to go and visit, and a bunch of goblins attacked, and one of my favorite creatures, a land shark, the boule, came shooting out at them. It was amazing. Interiors, most of that interior can also be seen down there. The inn, it's called the Three-Legged Mare for my game. One of the game masters is using it in their game right now. And it's just about engagement and getting people into it. I equipped the party with an airship. Why not? That'd be fun. Let them get around. That'd be cool to do. Airship made from a Coke bottle. It's a Coke bottle. You just look at things differently. As you create stuff, you tend to look at things differently. Found objects, what you can do with them. They went to a kind of an Asian-y feel world, so that was really fun to build into that. So then COVID hits us, and we're kind of gaming on. I saw it right away that I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't want to lose our game. We're playing every 2 weeks. So I immediately figured out how to utilize Discord, and I set up cameras all over the table so that you could still play. I moved your character, tell me where you're going, I'll move it, but we still engaged with real, because I make terrain. I'm not going to go with digital. I'm not going to be moving stuff on a digital map. And that's what we did. And so we utilized it to its fullest, and it worked really, really well. And we've done it for a long time. Since then, a couple of my players have moved away, so we technically aren't even playing in person yet, because I got players that aren't in the city. So we're still utilizing this method. We're kind of trying to figure that out. But we've played 60-odd games since the beginning of COVID online, and they're not as good as in person, but they're close. I honestly believe they're close. The role-playing is still there. It's fantastic. We've figured it out. And I see D&D like a movie. As a DM, I see it like a movie, and I see it for the players as a movie, engaging them, making them see and feel different things. And like a movie, it's all through that lens, right? It's all seeing stuff. So the players are like, this is amazing. This looks so incredible. How can I show my friends? How can we do something? Can you share it? I'm like, okay. I'll create an Instagram account. My imaginary world is called Ardnor. All my players live in the world of Ardnor. It's like, okay, I make miniatures, it's Ardnor Minis. And that became my Instagram account. Put it up there, started sharing stuff for the players. In about 6 months, I started getting messages from people saying, could you make me something? Which was like the most bizarre thing. So I'm like, okay, it's COVID. I'm digging in now. I had just left my 20 plus years of dusty job to go and get away from the crazy and the stress. And I'm just gonna build stuff in my studio. And lo and behold, commissions start coming in. A person in New York City asked me to make them Weathertop. So it was about this big, boxed it all up, had a wooden framework around it so it wouldn't get crushed, and sent that to the... I'd always dreamed about building Weathertop. That was amazing. This was interior of Erebor, Lonely Mountain, with Smog sitting on his treasure chest. That was a fantastic build. Again, somebody in the States bought that. They wanted a display fit right into their IKEA cabinet, the little cubbies, and I had light switches on for them and everything, and they could display all the minis that they painted, so we talked about how they wanted it to be designed and built. One of my clients is a Lord of the Rings player, so I went through and made him the Doors of Durin. So you hit the button, they would light up. It was really, really cool. And when you flip the mountain around, magically you went from Misty Mountains all the way to the Lonely Mountain, and I did the Gates of Erebor for him. So he had kind of both, a two-sided mountain to be used in his game. Gentlemen wanted a kind of a dungeon underneath their tavern for their game, so we did that. When I say we, it's that proverbial me, myself, and I, and the mouse in my pocket. Another tavern, this was really fun because the client said, can we work into a bunch of things that my players have? This is their world. This is where the players are. So I had a staff that lit up with a light, and that was their druid staff, and I had a lantern that belonged to somebody else, and it was all these different fun things that were worked into it for the client. More display stands for minis. Book nooks. I started making a lot of book nooks that people will put in. They're the same size as your manuals. So they fit right in next to them. And this was a wizard's, two-story wizard's castle with lots of books and stuff. Yeah, I get a little carried away, but it's a lot of fun. This was a 3-story tavern they wanted with like an area for a dancer and a performer, and they had a special room that you got to through a hinged bookcase that I made. Like, it's talking to all these different people and getting to build their dreams. And that's an exciting thing. I tell you, when someone says, I have this idea, and if you can bring it to life, that's a pretty cool thing. Little versions, just little tiny guys. One of my main clients is a gentleman down in Florida. He's commissioned me on a number of projects, and he wanted a proper working water wheel. So I got a little motor with different step-down gears, and the water wheel spins around, and yeah, That's what we built for him. So that was just a blast to build that. And we just keep building more stuff for his game table. And then a funny thing happened. I had a strange direct message come through and it says, could you make me a Dragonlance tree? So any of you that know Dragonlance story, there's the Inn of the Last Home with a big Valenwood tree with the thing top. And the person who sent me the message said his name was Joe Manganiello from True Blood, from most recently the Deal or No Deal Island. He's the host of that, right? He's been on, Big Bang Theory when they did their D&D stuff. Joe's very big in the D&D world, was on Critical Role's first season in the climax when he went and stole Vecna's hand. And I'm like, it's not Joe Manganiello. Click on his name, 2.5 million followers. Oh my God, it's Joe Manganiello. So we start talking, and he was originally looking for one of I do Infinity Nooks. They're about this big, and when you look in, it just repeats forever. And he said, how does it work? And I said, Elven magic? Like, I honestly don't know, dude, what you're asking me. And he said, how do I get one? How does it work? And I said, listen, if you want one of these, I would be honored to make it for you. No charge. You've done so much for the world of D&D. That would be amazing. So Joe has a Death Saves company where they do different D&D related products. I got his logo and a friend of mine who's a 3D printer. These are my digits. This is my digital printing right here with my fingers. I don't 3D print. He did the logo for me, which we put into it, so repeated down the hallway. He was so jazzed, that's when he said, would you do an Inn of the Last Home? I'm like, dude, I'd love to make the Inn of the Last Home. So this huge, big, massive tree, it stood about this big, all built, it lit up, it was fantastic. We have audio, right, Dave? Yeah. And at the same time I was doing this, it turned out a company in town, Black Forest Wood, I think their name, was doing a huge table for Joe's game room. I didn't know that. I wish I did, because they could have taken my tree for me. I had to send it through FedEx. They were down there to install it, and he said, actually, this is the first thing that I had built for my new room.
Actually, the first piece, I can't lie, the first piece is actually this. If you want to catch that. That's an Inn of the Last Home from Dragonlance. I've been working with Wizards on bringing Dragonlance to life for many years in entertainment, and somebody built me an Inn of the Last Home. So actually, technically, that was it beat the table. Yeah.
So, wow, Joe Manganiello asked me to build him something. Like, it's just, the world is so bizarrely small with the internet, and it's amazing the people that you get to meet, and I have been absolutely blessed by the different people I've got to meet through my career through this. So I started making products for Etsy, a lot of book nooks, Castle Nook, 2-story, dungeon on the bottom, and kind of a tavern up top. The Infinity Nook we talked about, a Dicey Nook where you can store all your dice in it. I actually have one on my table today. And then I did a smaller Doors of Durn after I did that big one, which was like a book nook, which was really sick. And to date, I've sold over 200 of these silly things and shipped them around the world. I realized at a point in time, like, I've learned a lot of this stuff, and it'd be really great to share this. And I'm a starving artist, so if I can make a little bit of money on the side, it'd be fantastic. So I created a Patreon site called the Pink Foam Brigade. Like I said, not the blue crap from Rona, the good pink stuff. What's better than a wizard's castle in pink? Seriously, the juxtaposition between the silly is fantastic, right? So I created a Patreon group where I help people learn to make these things. There's over 280 posts, tons of videos, tips, tricks, tutorials, all that kind of stuff. If any of you are ever interested in learning how to make any of this terrain, please check it out. We have a group chat where we all share what we're doing and inspire each other. We do live build sessions. I don't want to be too salesman-y here, but it's a lot of fun. And like I said, foolishly, hey, what about a con? That'd be really fun. Let's do a con. Why not? You're not busy enough. Let's do more things. And it was one of the best things I've ever did. I really enjoyed it. I see a lot of faces this year that I saw last year, so thank you all for coming back. Look around this room. This is a thing. There's people here. It's fun. The vibe. I heard from everybody afterwards that I felt we hit the mark because everybody said they enjoyed themselves and they liked the vibe. I kept hearing that we liked the vibe, and that made me feel really good because that was the most important thing that I keep saying. We all have fun, but the vibe. You want people to really enjoy it and have a feeling of community because our world is very impersonal. I do not want to throw shade on Calgary Expo because what they do is amazing and a lot of people go. But it's a very different vibe, right? It's not a personal experience. It's a very busy, crazy, manic. And that's cool. I didn't want that. I wanted something where you could walk around and know the people and talk to the people and, hey, I remember you, and that kind of thing. That's very important. So that's what our goal is here. This year's a litmus test. We're seeing it. Last year, did the stars line up? What happened? We thought maybe 50 people would come. We kind of hoped on 100. We had 225 attendees last year. We were blown away. So we said, but maybe things just worked out really well. Let's do it again. Let's don't get too carried away. Add some workshops, that's cool. But let's see how it goes. And next year it might be in a larger venue, but not like at the Calgary Stampede, larger venue, but a bigger community hall maybe. We'll see. But it's a test. But it's about that vibe, right? And about that feeling, much like your D&D game, that community, that's what we wanted to build and bring forth. My good friend Jim, the guy with the big Viking hat on over there, we got together and we do a podcast called 13 Sided Die Podcast, just for a giggle, for a lot of fun. We'll be recording here tonight. All the speakers will be on stage, and we'll do like a panel type thing. It'll be a lot of fun. So that's really cool to check out. There's all the normal socials. I rarely use Facebook. I hate Facebook, but I had to for the con, so I was there a little bit. But Instagram is kind of my mainstay where I'm at most of the time. Look at that. Oh, man, I am on schedule. Banging, half hour. Look at me. Anyways, that is a little bit about my world, about how I've gone from a silly little thing that my dad introduced me with in a movie to years and years of playing with some of the same people, which is the biggest blessing in my life. I don't see anyone else from high school. It's only those idiots that play D&D with me. You know, you're nodding, you got it, right? Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's lovely, right? To actually delicately converting it into a semi-quasi, almost retired career. Because I'm in my studio every day making stuff. That's what I do. I mean, I used to make money up here. Now I make money somewhere down here. But I don't have that stress. I feel way better. And it's probably the first time in my life I actually truly feel like an artist, which is fantastic. And, you know, I love what I get to do. It's so amazing. So that's kind of been my journey, which is a really fun story. It's so neat to look at it. And I really want to kind of share that with you guys today. I think at this point we will open it up if there's any questions. I'm available for any kind of question. Favorite color is orange, whatever. But yeah, anything if you guys would like. How you doing,
If you
sweetie?
do have any questions, please use the mic at the front so we capture you in the recording of the show.
Perfect. How you doing? Hi. 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 Yeah, any questions? Anybody? Oh, after. Hi.
I just wanted to know, and this is related to the terrain that you showed. How did you make the grass?
The grass?
Yes.
Okay. And were you at my table when you first came in by any chance?
I wanted to. I was too late in signing up. If there's still a free spot, I would be interested.
I'll have a look and see if we do. Yeah.
Okay.
And like I should mention that too. The concept of, before we get to your question, which is a great question.
Yeah.
The concept of AärdCON is also you pay $10 at the door and everything's free. Like that's it. Like games are free, tables are, workshops are free. Everything's free. You just pay to get in the door and have a good time. We did sell tickets in advance, but it was just paying for your door to get in because we wanted to make sure we weren't scrambling. Last year we scrambled to try and get people sitting and playing, so we just did it in advance. And I want to say we sold out almost every single thing. Last night I think we had 2 seats open, which is, you guys are amazing, blew us away. But if you go to my vendor table by the door, afterwards we can talk about it. Grass is, okay, a lot of what we do in terrain, we've begged, borrowed, and stolen from everybody. They've done it before us. And the biggest area we get the most amount of stuff from is the model train. Not terrain. I'm terrain. They're train. We get that confused all the time. What they've done. So if you think about a model train set with little cities, towns, mountains, grass, trees, they've figured it all out. So we steal a lot from them. So to do grass, it's PVA glue, so white glue, wood glue. I like to use a quick drying carpenter's glue mixed with water, put on really quickly, and then you buy what's called flocking. So PM Hobbycraft, one of our sponsors, look how I worked that in. PM Hobbycraft, one of the best places in town. They have lots and lots of flocking. You can buy different colors. It comes in a plastic bottle, which is fine to use it for that. If you want, you crack off the top. You've got your wet glue all put down, and you squeeze it out of it. It's little tiny fibers that have been cut of grass. And as it comes out of here, it actually gets a little static, and it will stand up. You want to get carried away, you buy a static applicator. It's about $30, and it's just kind of like a wand with a canister, a little wire, and you press the button and it puts a little electrical charge in it, so the strands come out with its static electricity and they'll stand up on end and look like grass. It's amazing. It works so well. I have a couple things on my table if you want to have a look at them up close, and you can see the grass. Does that answer the question? Awesome. Great. And your name, sir? Sorry, Ivan? Ivan, pleasure meeting you. Thanks for the question. That was a great question. Oh, good. I'm glad you got to come. Yeah, it's great. There's so much here. Anybody else? Question? Yes. Thank you. Questions are good.
My name is Sam, and I was just wondering about the durability of things like flock. So if you're putting miniatures on them, if you're handling miniatures, if you're handling terrain, how do you make them last?
Yeah. It was Sam? Sam. Pleasure meeting you, Sam. That's a really good question, and I think when you start with the item that you're creating, you need to ask yourself a question. What am I building this for? Am I building it as a display that's going to sit on the shelf? That's very different because it's not going to be touched or handled much. It's, and so you've got a little bit of leeway. You don't have to worry as much about it. Is it going to be something that's used in a game? Okay. With flocking, what you can do is once we've done what I discussed, you can also mix up that same solution of watered down glue, or you can actually go and buy a product, but why spend more money on watered down glue? And you put it into a squirt bottle and you get a nice mist on it. Go outside and mist the whole thing. Let it dry. It'll be crunchy now, your grass. It won't have that velvet feel, but it will look good and hold up in gameplay. Another thing you can do if you want to do an in-between is you buy cheap hairspray, aerosol hairspray, and you hit it with aerosol hairspray. And that is something you may have to do occasionally because it will break down, but it does hold it together. You don't use much? I don't use much either anymore. I'm with you. But you can buy it for cheap at the dollar store. The dollar store is your best friend. You get a lot of stuff at the dollar store for what we do. If you're working with foam, the foam is amazing. Like it takes texture. That's its trick. And so you can put wood, stone, whatever. But because it takes texture, it can also take texture after the fact when you don't want it to. So if you want to be safe with the foam, what you can do is when you're getting ready to go and put your first base coat on, which is generally black, everything's dark, it's D&D, you mix in either wood glue into that or Mod Podge hard coat and put that in with your first base coat, and that will help seal it. Okay, I'll be honest with you, for clients I do a lot of that. For my own stuff I don't. The answer is, of course, I can touch it up, but I've also found it doesn't get that damaged. Even hand playing all the time, it really doesn't get that damaged. And the worst case is a piece comes off and you get a little tiny pink spot, and that looks kind of fun, but you can touch it up afterwards. But it's actually quite amazing. And I use cheap cheap acrylic glue from Michaels, like the little tiny, $1.25 paint things. You do not use mini paint on your terrain. Do not do that. It's way too expensive and it's way too good at paint. That's for minis. We use cheap stuff. And it actually, being acrylic, kind of seals it in and makes it actually a little bit of a barrier coat too. So there's different degrees you can go. The final one I do is on that big one that was the mountains. There's a product, you can get it at Home Hardware carries it. And it's a sealer used for concrete, and it has a little bit of grit inside of it, and it's safe. It's like a water-based thing, but it dries and is sealed really hard. You can put that on larger things, and it really makes it, like you can tap it. It's got some hardness to it. So for big things like mountains and stuff, it's really good. Is that good? Awesome. How am I doing, Dave? You gonna kick me off? I'm good for a couple minutes? Another 5. Any other questions? Anybody? No? Yes.
Hey, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say I really like the vibe here.
You. Your name?
Conrad.
Colin, thank you so much. That's my goal, man. It really is. I just want people to come here, have a good time, tell your friends about a good time that you had, and we just keep the good time going. Like, that's what it's all about. I wanted to try and recreate the feeling I get when I play in D&D with my friends. And those days are special. They mean a lot to me. Like we talked about, having that relationship for all. I think we talked last year, didn't we? No? Okay. Okay. You know. Those friends are so close to you. Those relationships, those adventures you've been on. I wanted to create that in this room as best as I could. And so, like, Courtney's a great friend of mine. Jim he's in my game. We do the podcast together. My mother-in-law just walked right there. That's my mother-in-law. She's here helping out. Hey, Mo. It's all family and friends here that are working. Almost everyone with an orange thing is in one of my games or I'm in their game. We wanted to try and impart that into the show and have everyone just really have a good time. The vendors are all very hand-picked. They're all local Calgary artists. We didn't want to have, we're trying to stay away from any big box stuff. Probably our biggest thing is maybe Fenris, which is also a Canadian company out in Quebec. Fenris is an amazing company that does amazing stuff. You can actually sell your old minis to them and buy minis and stuff, which is kind of their side thing too, which is really neat. They were a huge sponsor. Yeah, we wanted to keep it really, really grassroots. That's what our goal is. So if it goes beyond that, please, someone grab me and say, dude, you're deviating, you're getting carried away. Let me know, because I want to keep it like this. Unless there's anybody else with a question?
Actually, I'll throw one your way there, Sean. Obviously, you're very tactile. You bring a lot of props that you make yourself, as you've shown everybody. But there are technologies that people are using. Obviously, COVID introduced a lot of that for us. Where do you kind of stand on that when you're DMing, running your games? Do you kind of run like a bit of a hybrid these days, or do you pretty much stay true to the source and the tactile feel?
Yeah. No, it's a great question, and we kind of chatted a little bit about that. For me, I did want to continue making terrain, so I wanted to have the table. So I got an overhead camera, a close-up camera, and then the camera on the computer so people can see me, move stuff around. I created a compass, so I could say to the guys, which way do you want? They'll go north, 10, east, 10 feet or whatever. So that helped a lot. That was our own crazy. During COVID, I did play in a number of games that were completely Roll20, Owlbear Rodeo. I don't know if everyone's used that one. That's pretty cool. And that's good. Personally, let's be careful. I don't want to get on a rant. D&D I love D&D. I just do. It's D&D. It's like grown up with it my whole life. Some of the decisions they're making in the last few years have been questionable, and a lot of us are a little frustrated. My concern about that, which ties in what Dave's saying, is turning it into like an interactive video game. That doesn't excite me. I don't like the idea of playing with you guys, and we're looking at our little characters running around on a video screen. The visuals are cool, but that's not D&D. D&D is this. It's the people, right? And that's critical, and it's being up close and trying to do that. And if it's up close through Discord, that's fine. You're still seeing people. I don't like that direction personally, but that's fine. To each his own. Jim and I always on our podcast say is that every table is different, right? Every table you sit at will be different than the last one you're at, and that's good. Difference and change is great. But for me, it's about trying to stay as close to that as you can. Personal interactions, theater of the mind for a lot of things, but every once in a while, if something gets really hairy, let's have some cool terrain and have everyone have a good time. Right? Is that good? Thanks, Dave. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I do really appreciate it. You'll see me around for the rest of the day. Thanks, guys. I'm over there at the table doing a workshop, and feel free to mill around if you want to see what's going on. You don't have to technically be involved. You're allowed to come and see. I will be at my vendor table occasionally, but my lovely wife is manning it for me today, so go and buy something and make me rich. But yeah, just have a great time, and shake somebody's hand today that you don't know. Meet somebody new. That'd be great. All right.
Big round of applause for founder Sean Smith.
Thanks, guys.